Good morning, good everyone, regardless of where you are. I'm Maxime Puteaux, I'm Principal Advisor at Euroconsult, and I'm really happy to welcome you today for a panel regarding grant segment and data management, the new value proposition. I'm delighted to host today a distinguished speaker, starting with Bill Carling, Senior Manager for Amazon Web Services Grant Station. From Kongsberg, we have Rolf Skatteboe, CEO. In Viasat, at Viasat, we have John Williams, VP from Real Time Earth Service. From Swedish Space Corp, we have Alfonso Barreiro, Head of Business Development at the SAMS division. And from Leaf Space, we are welcoming Giovanni Pandolfi, CTO of the company. During the next 45 minutes, we will discuss about the ground segment trends and next challenges and opportunities. And I'm welcoming you. I'm inviting you to ask your question through the Q&A box to our distinguished panelists. Let's start this panel with a brief introduction of the different speakers. And let's start with Alfonso from Swedish Space Corp. Alfonso, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maxime. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be in this panel, in this new format for this event. I thought I would introduce a little bit about Swedish Space Corporation for those that might not know about us. It'll be very brief, very fast. The Swedish Space Corporation is a company that has existed in one form or another for the last 50 years. We're a full service operator for space access. That means that we provide ground segment support for the full mission cycle for many different missions. And we complement that with engineering services and operation support in different sites. We are obviously multi-mission. We cover different orbital locations like LEO, of course, but we go all the way to lunar orbits and even beyond that to the L1 and L2 points. And we also provide service in human spaceflight. To do that, we have a worldwide network that is comprised of about 20 locations with quite a few antennas. And we have three main sites of operations. You all know about S-Range up in Kiruna, one of the most versatile space centers in the world. And we have sites in Germany connected to GSOC and ESOC. And we have a site in the US near Philadelphia, where we have also a control center. We are about 600 employees in the company, and we cover 10 countries, and we have people from 20 different countries working with us. So one of the things that we pride ourselves is that we are a very flexible network. We think we're one of the most flexible networks in the world for multi-mission operations. We serve all kinds of different things, as I said before. We are providing services to single satellite operations, to full constellations, and things in between. We do hosting of antennas. We do operation support with personnel on site, providing that type of support. And we operate S-Range, that is very, very versatile, very capable up there in Kiruna in the north of Sweden, with many different types of services. And we want to be very adaptable. One of the things that we think it's very interesting from us is that we are responsive. We've provided many a time very responsive operations in times of need for our customers, emergencies and the like. And we have very robust response teams for that. And but at the same time, we try to be very cost effective, and we are always trying to adopt standardized solutions, because that's something that the market requires, obviously, and combine those to maybe provide tailored solutions for specific cases. And we do that for all kinds of different missions. As I mentioned, we do a lot of telecom, of course. We do a lot of Earth observation. We do science and exploration, and as I said, space flight. And just to conclude, a look at the future. As you might have seen, we've just press released that our UK unit has received a contract from ESA to look into solutions for the problems we have operating the constellations and the very small satellites, the CubeSats and small satellites. So that's something that we think it's going to provide quite a few solutions for the current problems in operating in frequencies and the like, and ground segment as a service and ground control center as a service. That's a type of solution. And just to conclude, we hope to start launching satellites from S-range to complement our sounding rockets in the near future. And thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Alfonso. Let's travel a little bit further west and continue with Rolf.
Yeah, thank you, Maxime. Happy to report that everything's good in Norway. It's been a different year here at KSAT with some unforeseen challenges, but we're super happy to announce that we have managed to operate all our ground stations as normal and expanded our maritime situational services even further. As some of you may know, KSAT does a couple of things. We have an extensive network of ground stations worldwide that we use to track satellites and operate control systems for different types of satellite, as well as we have our Earth observation services, particularly focusing on maritime situational awareness. We have spent quite a considerable amount of time and energy in 2020 to standardize our operations and optimize everything which has been necessary since we are running all our antennas out of the main headquarters in Tromsø, Norway, with a backup facility up at Svalbard, which is our main ground station. And this year we actually celebrated the 100th antenna located at Svalbard. So it has grown significantly from the first NASA antenna we put in there 15 years ago. We have increased the focus on virtualization and software-defined solutions, and all this is done to focus more on the customer requirements that we will hopefully discuss a little later in this panel.
We will.
So, yeah. So the ground network has been expanded. We are now more than 200 antennas at 25 locations worldwide, and the last head count was 50,000 passes taken last month. So everything is good at KSAT.
Awesome to hear. Let's travel south to Italy with Giovanni.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Nice to see you from Italy here. So we've been, quite a complicated situations in these months, but fortunately for how we structure the company and how we operate, we've been able to go from a semi-remote company to fully remote a day when we first had the first lockdown here in Italy. And lately has been quite good to we have ramped up with the operation. Finally, some launches has been launched, so it's good, and we had increased the number of satellites that we are supporting, and that's good too. We are expanding our network, even though with a little bit delayed due to the pandemic and travel restrictions. But we see a really good end of the year, and of course, working a lot in next year. Also, of course, with our core services like Lifeline, that is our multi-mission shared ground station network, and LiftKit, that is our dedicated network, but also with a new service that we started just in May this year, that is the launch vehicle tracking as a service. And our first mission has been the demo flight of Virgin Orbit. And this is new territory for us, but it's good to see, the good perspective from the customers and the market that really understand what we are doing, and it's good to have positive feedback from them.
Looks exciting. Are you still here, Giovanni? Okay, we will come back to you later on. Oh yeah, are you still? Yeah. Okay, let's travel the ocean and go to DC. What about AWS, Bill?
Hi, my name is Bill Carlin. I run the ground station sales and business development teams for AWS Ground Station, and I'm also part of the new aerospace and satellite organization where I'm responsible for the satellite solutions side of that business. We're a relatively new service on the satellite side. We came to market about 1.5 years ago with 4 sites, and we're now at 7 sites globally. These sites are co-located in our Amazon data regions. So this enables our clients to effectively fly their satellites from the cloud and receive their collected data in the cloud directly. And then it's made immediately available for post-processing, whether it be stored, computed, or moved on into a variety of either machine learning or artificial intelligence applications. Excuse me. Beyond the 7 locations, which will expand through the course of the coming couple of years, all of these sites are linked to all the other Amazon data regions by up to 100 gigabit fiber optic network. So one of the problems we're trying to solve is to afford direct ingestion wherever the data comes down into the cloud, and then that data can be in turn routed wherever the customer desires in terms of where they want to process. Or if they even have multiple processing locations, they can do that. So we've gotten off to a pretty good start. A couple of fairly large clients have come on board and a variety of smaller clients. And I'm sure as we discuss use cases and applications, we can give you some information on that and what we see coming.
Awesome. And let's finish with John in Atlanta.
Morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm John Williams. I lead Viasat's Real-Time Earth, or RTE business. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today and join my fellow panelists in talking about ground station as a service and RTE in particular. RTE is a completely US-owned and US-operated ground station as a service. It's being developed as a service extension of our world-class antenna product lines, some that we sell to our competitors here or our frenemies on the panel often. It's a very focused effort. We're not trying to be everything to everyone as some of the other players in the GSAS market are. Instead, we're focused on a specific range of capabilities and winning the type of customer that's a good fit for that specific range of capabilities. RTE is built on a foundation of virtualization and automation. It's designed to be lights out. That is, we have no manned operation centers. Everything, as we'll talk about later, maybe some of the Q&A, is highly, highly automated. 2020 was our first year of service. We've had a good year. We've augmented our original 2 stations in the UK and in Georgia by bringing online, despite COVID and through a great team effort, 2 new 7.3 meter antennas in Alice Springs, Australia. This month, we're also going to bring Argentina online. Early next year, we'll bring online a site in Accra, Ghana to join the network, and 1 or 2 sites in the high latitudes next year. I'll pass it back to you, Maxime.
Thank you, John. So let's start with my first question. 2020 has had unprecedented challenges, but increasingly people are talking about how the COVID-19 situation and has forced us to accelerate the innovation. What are you hearing from your customers about the new type of innovation, solution, or new need that you will need to deliver? John, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can go first. Our customers are coming to us asking for customized solutions. They want higher data rates, increased automation, and different concepts of operations. And we see automation increasing. So as I said earlier, our entire network is automated. All the updates are pushed. We don't have people touching the antennas, touching the system at all. All of our updates are pushed by automation. That allows us to onboard customers really easily, stand up virtual machines and take them down really quickly. And we're also deploying the highest data rate modem in the world right now on the VHR 3200 to help with those data rates.
Yeah, I may add on that, Maxime. KSAT was a little bit ahead of that development a couple of years ago when we announced our KSAT Light network, because the philosophy there was to take the ground segment operation from a station-centric approach where you had a number of satellites, one antenna, and a number of backends, into a network-centric approach where you could have multiple ground stations, multiple antennas at multiple sites, and have them interoperable virtually. And we did that by first standardizing the ground segment, the ground station themselves, because normally it used to be the satellite that put up the requirements for the ground. We turned it around. We said, let the ground be the required driver for the requirements and let the satellites adapt to that. And that gives a great deal of flexibility, which again means that you can port some of the existing equipment into software-based solutions. And that has been a tremendous success, if we can say so. We are supporting some 20,000 passes every month from the small satellite industry, and we're happy to be able to serve them the way we're doing it.
I would like to contribute a little bit. Our approach is slightly different. We have standardized solutions, and the analysis that Rolf just made is accurate on that. But at the same time, we have very demanding solutions from traditional customers that are still being required to serve. And along that line, we're moving into the new locations. And we've seen increasing services in things beyond LEO, transits to GEO, drifts in GEO, and lunar services. And that's also one development that is happening more and more. And it's not just the traditional government agencies, but more and more increasingly private enterprises that are moving in those realms. So that's also something that I think is part of the operating reality today.
I would like to add that on our side, we've seen our customer really passing on a full automated solution or fully remote operations way. On that side, we were good to go because we designed our network or our networks from the ground up to be fully automated and to not have any physical control center to handle our operation. And we're seeing also our customers actually going that way, also in some cases pushed, of course, by the pandemic and by the restrictions that we had. But of course, also another point that really comes out is the point of cybersecurity, because when you're when you're running your own mission and operation center in a full remote, you need to have some specific, to follow some specific guidelines or to have some specific best practice in place to actually allow a safe and secure operation of your satellite. On that side, we have worked quite a lot also with our customers to enable that. And another point is really, and we have seen a lot this year, is really the launch delays has impacted quite a lot the life of our customers, because we had, well, I would say a few customers ready to launch by March, and then they slipped to September, October, and now this month. So they need to be flexible, also to be able to switch from one launcher to the other, and then to have the ground segment that adapt to that and is able to provide, in any case, the capacity that they need in a Swift, basically. So I would say that really flexibility and the ability to operate a network and a satellite fully remote is really the kind of innovation that we have seen a lot in these months.
I would sort of second everything you see here. There's a lot of innovation going on around trying to be more dynamic, more flexible, more customer responsive for all of us. On the AWS side, our hallmark is innovation, and we're focusing on that on the sort of traditional ground segment side and virtualizing our network, spreading it wide so that we can serve our customers in the way they want, which seems to be trending towards more frequent contacts with lower latency intervals between contact and processing, and immediate access to downstream applications. So it's a combination of trying to bring the edge in and push the edge out at the same time. And I think we're all seeing that collectively. So we sort of focused in that area. And then we're also seeing our clients beginning to realize that they're their operations are driven by their customer requirements. And since many of their customers are Amazon customers or AWS customers, we have a pretty good insight into the types of applications and service requirements that they're looking for. And so we're trying to customize around what has to happen downstream.
So going back to the time to download, how can the industry better address the hurdles of low latency coverage and access to the data?
Yeah, I can take the first cut on that one, because I think it's quite interesting to see how the market have developed again after the current situation. It's more like a V-shaped approach here now. It's we had no launch supports in the beginning of the year, and then we end up having 9 in September. So it's quite interesting to see how the amount of data will flow. And what we see then with the amount of data is that the customer want to have the data as fast as possible. So it's basically to have a distributed network which is efficient enough and has this capacity to collect data from the increasing number of satellites. And in contradiction to Bill, we have a slightly different approach, because it's not about bringing the data fast to the cloud, but bring the cloud to the satellites and to the data. So we see that it's much better to have the data processed locally and at the foot of the antenna, and then extract time-critical information there, and then you can take the rest and put it in a cloud somewhere. So that's an interesting dynamics we have there between, as you said, take the edge to the data and the data to the edge. So we have to be more versatile, more flexible, and by expanding the network. So on the KSAT Lite side, for example, we will install 34 new antennas next year just to deal up with the new increased requirements we see in the market.
I think that on our side, the lease space side, we are kind of in the middle. We are seeing that to be effective on the data transfer, or actually to capture the data from the satellite and transfer them to the end user as fast as possible, is not just a thing of delivering the data to the cloud as fast as possible, process them at the ground station, but it's also a mean of how you actually do the routing, how you transfer that data to the endpoint that the customer wants and when they want it. There could be different endpoints for every pass that every station does for every satellite. And also the flexibility and the easiness of use such a service from the customer perspective, because of course if it's complicated, if it can have the data in 1 second, but it's difficult to route, it's difficult to understand how to have an efficient way to manage that. Of course it's good, but it's not good enough, or at least cannot enable some other applications that is really critical for data latency. And then I will attach to what Rolf said, that really we have seen, I think, in the last years that the distributed network is the way to go for some specific applications like the IoT network application or AIS or DSP, where you need to have the data downloaded to Earth as fast as possible, and not just as a mean of transfer data from the ground station to the cloud or to the endpoint, but really to have a more distributed network to actually access the satellite as soon as you can, and having a scheduling strategy that really enables you to do that. We have our own automatic scheduling that really optimize our own activity and also, of course, our customer activity doing that.
That's interesting.
If I may, one thing that I think should be mentioned in this analysis is that we as an industry need to bring much more resources to the system. I think obviously KSAT and us, we have extensive distributed networks, and we are seeing more and more importance in the coverage of the equatorial band, because many missions are going there, and it's a bit of a shift from the traditional polar that both of us also serve well. But from our perspective, obviously standardized solutions are very, very relevant, and we're working with AWS and others on accessing the cloud, and we're also with specialized providers, and that's one of the big questions: how will the cloud in general shape in this industry in a few years? What would be the standard, or what would be the solutions available, but also deploy solutions that are tailored, that are specific for customers that are very demanding and very specific about what they need, and then deploy not only the antennas and bringing the data to the ground, but backhauling the data to the specific locations. And AWS there proposes a solution, and but not anyone is ready to do that. So we need to still travel a path of being in both solutions at this time.
So let me take go ahead, Bill.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, this is one of the cool things about our industry in general, is we're all seeing what's coming and reacting, and in most cases actually being proactive with our clients about where to go. So if we sort of break down the latency link budget, you started with the question of latency from satellite to ground. That, for all of us, that's actually almost irrelevant at this point, because we're all really good at that. The issue is the processing latency, about getting it from the receive point, and in a disparate and spread network like Rolf and his team have built, for example, which is fabulous collection network. The real trick, though, is how do we get all that data back to wherever the processing points are going to be continuously, quickly, against an SLA or against a performance metric that works for the client? Because at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is give the client the ability to take that data that's collected a certain number of times per hour, per day, per sun cycle, and look at it and compare it for state of change. Because most of this business is, whether it's Earth observation or IoT, it's change management, change observation. So our ability to reduce the latency of that collection, we do it by direct ingestion, and then by collecting every bit of the cloud together at high speed. We also do it in concert with some service providers by putting that edge processing, edge storage, edge abilities out at their facilities with our Snow family of products and our Outpost family of products, which are sort of like mini data centers that are deployable in remote locations.
So sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I would add to all of that all my fellow panelists are hitting all the right points of coverage, the communications back to the cloud, processing in the cloud. One of the things that we've focused on is something Giovanni said and Rolf said, which is the efficiency of the pass itself when it comes over. And through our high-speed modems, getting the data down as quickly as possible so they don't need that next pass somewhere further downstream, and then doing edge processing on that data there to ease the stream of what's transmitted and then goes into the cloud.
That's interesting.
Yeah, some of the requirements there, John, is based on, as you said, the customer requirements. So we're preparing now for a Norwegian mission that will have 4 to 6 gigabit on Ka band downlink, and you have to adopt technology to that, and you have to virtualize that technology. You have to put it in a software-based solution to be flexible and be adaptable. So it goes together towards this customer satisfaction that we all strive for.
I was wondering about the new customer focus regarding data processing and value-added service creation up to access to geospatial data. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, KSAT, I don't mean to steal all the words, but KSAT is the only one here that actually does a lot with the data as well as providing the services. So we have a strong focus on that. It's not, as we see it, it's not so much about data anymore, it's about information. And the information is fused together in different layers at different locations. Some has to be done at the foot of the antenna, as I said before, because it's a near real-time requirement. You need to be able to provide that information, that critical information, for example, about the ship, where it's going and where it's heading, super fast. Then on the other hand, we are serving the Norwegian government now with a global deforestation effort. It's about creating maps of deforestation to support the quest against that. And that's a different story. Then you take the data and you store it somewhere, and then you do the analysis. So we have to be flexible here and try to understand the customer requirements and adapt to that.
I like what Rolf said, is that we as ground segment providers, we need to be flexible. I think it's the only way to go with this market, that any customer have a different strategy, a different concept of value for them, and what we need to provide to them. As Live side, we don't have any work actually on the data analytics, but we really work closely with our customer to understand what we can do more and what we can change on our architecture to really enable some specific missions. But I think that all the panelists here are really aligned on the fact that the final point is really to understand where we can provide more value to our customer depending on the specific application that they are focusing on.
So I'm 100% in agreement with Rolf on differentiating between data and information, because what we're seeing with our customers is a real transformation in the way they're thinking about data collection and now thinking about it as information processing. And so to that end, a year or two ago, when we were talking to customers, we'd see, well, we're going to hive this part off of ground segment will be here, and we'll do this on premises here, and we'll do some of this in the cloud. And what we've seen is a migration to going to all in. So that, for example, Capella, a satellite synthetic aperture radar mapping company, is effectively running its missions from the clouds, collecting the data in the cloud, running its company in the cloud on all the boring back office stuff, but critical to enterprise operation, and then doing all of the downstream processing either for their clients or allowing their clients to connect directly to those information flows and work it from there. But whether it's at the edge or it's directly ingested into the cloud, the delivery of it to the cloud or some large-scale processing capability is critical.
One thing that I would like to mention, apart from what has been already mentioned, is that we as ground segment providers, is that we must provide also some sort of resiliency or robustness for our customers, not only to receive the data, but to store it, to forward it, or to process it if that's the case. And that's something that we work, at least in SSC, we worked hard to do and try and ensure that there are backup solutions, that you can have alternative ground stations if need be, or diverse communication paths and all similar related type of measures to be able to be one of the strong links in this chain that is multiple, and that's also another thing that I think is important for this industry today, is that we are seeing a more complex industrial setup where there are multiple providers for multiple services for one basic mission or for a type of mission. And that is an evolution that is mimicking what is happening in the telecom world or has happened in the telecom world prior to us, where there are multiple layers and multiple providers, and you have to pull your weight, as it were, properly in that arrangement.
I would echo some of that. RTE is not actually in that far end of the value chain where the analytics are, though larger Viasat is a consumer of much of that information that comes out. The point I would make here is relationships are important. A little bit of what Giovanni was saying. Relationships are important. You've got to understand that customer, whether it's an eGeos or it's another customer, or it's our newly announced relationship with Rolf with Microsoft Azure Orbital. That what's important to that customer, and as Alfonso said, effectively, resiliently providing your part of the value chain to make sure the data does have low latency and can be processed in a timely manner and make a difference.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
Yeah, no, talking. I was just about to mention the value chain, John, because what we did do here earlier this year was to do a thorough analysis of the value chain. And if you look at the panelists here, we have a little bit in common, all of us, and then we have a lot of stuff that is not common.
That's right.
So we did that analysis going from all the way building a satellite till actually delivering data to the end user, and it was clear for us that there were regions in that value chain where we definitely didn't want to be in, because we would be so ignorant with the requirements from the customer. We would have absolutely no idea on what to do. So we decided to stay in that focus. How can we get the data in the most flexible way down to the earth and to the customer, which overlaps a little bit with the terrestrial network for data dissemination. But we said, let's stay there. Let's be the best one in that particular region, and then we go out and look for partners. We'll find partners that can help us to do the rest of the stuff. So Viasat is a potential partner, obviously. AWS is a partner, and I could mention their entire panel there, because it's all about being super good at what you're good at. And you have to do that now to achieve what the customer really wants to achieve, namely the cheapest price possible for a reliable and proficient ground service.
Yeah, we went through the same exercise. I appreciate you saying that. While we don't have the scale of an Amazon, we are a $2 billion company. So we went through some efforts of looking at the value chain. Where do we want to play? Do we want to do some acquisitions and other things to expand that? And decided the same thing you did. Let's stay where we're strong.
Which is a perfect transition for taking a question from the audience. One of our panelists is asking to everyone that a number of companies are actually working on integrating satellite with current terrestrial mobile handsets to provide coverage in remote areas. Could it create for you new growth opportunities for the ground infrastructure for that type of constellation? I'm thinking about Link on the top of my mind. And when we are looking about the software and IT, is it something which is feasible from an integration standpoint? It's a lot in a single question.
Yes, I would say obviously, and I think everybody will agree with me that yes, it can. How it will be done is a key question here. How will we deploy infrastructure to address this type of service that is 5G, if you want to call it? But 5G so far is ground to flight to space, and then how do we bring that signal down is what is not as clear, and I think we are all there to collaborate and with the various bodies and standards that are being put out to bring those signals down and then link them up with the normal terrestrial networks. So yeah, it's obviously a business opportunity, and it's something that we need to look at and keep track and work with different players to start doing things. And you had a second part of the question, and that I'm not sure. How do we do it technically? There are many options there. That's the problem right now, and maybe the flight segment will dictate that, or the equipment operators. I mean the mobile phone network operators might orient that development.
Mm-hmm.
The emergence of the 3GPP Release 17 standard on non-terrestrial 5G/IoT is huge for our industry.
Yes,
it's going to govern a standardized approach for everything from the device to the satellite link budget, what Alfonso referred to, which is a very interesting problem to begin with by itself, and then amalgamation into whatever we're going to do to collect that collected content and downlink it. So there's some really cool emerging models around hybrid satellite mobile networks, and the standards being driven off the scale of the mobile network operators who insist on standardization because they're not going to spend a penny that is bespoke or purpose-built. They just don't do it anymore. Everything from the radio to the core equipment is all openly standardized. So there's a huge opportunity here for us to leverage all that. And if you look at the assembly of the capability in this panel room, we have the ability to collect information from everywhere around the world in volume and highly frequently and allow those mobile network operators and their clients to switch off of mobile networks onto satellite networks and back, depending on their application and their location. Obviously, it's not any different than it was 20 years ago with Iridium and Globalstar in terms of the driver, but the ability now is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and it's all about having the flexibility to be hybrid in general. We are putting, just to emphasize that a little bit, we're putting an optical station into our network now just to test that out to a future expansion. So it's all about having a generic interface where the customer can decide what kind of means of communication he wants to pick up from behind there. It could be traditional RF, it could be cloud-based RF, it could be satellite link, even though it's too expensive today, and it could be optical. So we have to adopt to a hybrid situation where the customer decides what means of communication is the best for his particular or her particular purpose.
Yeah, I think that the main push will be also for this kind of application, on at least on our kind of services, is really moving from okay, I'll take one pass over this station kind of procedure to actually really using the software-defined network guidelines or architecture to actually drive this change, to really being able to connect different satellites and provide them the actual connectivity that they need in a flexible way. This is something that I think will be the main change also for this kind of application, and will be, I would say, the only kind of enabler. And I think Rolf and also Alfonso have seen that probably with the support of OneWeb and other mega constellation, where really the approach changes a lot from Earth observation satellite, for example, or other application. So it's really a totally different procedure, totally different operations that we need to take care of.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think
we need to wrap it up, Alfonso.
Okay, well, I was just going to mention ARPU.
Okay, yeah, there are so many questions that I wish I would have time to ask, but I invite also the delegates to ask the question to the queue through the matchmaking platform. And I would like to first to thank you for this great panel. And let's wait a few minutes for next panel about IoT constellation, moderated by Stefan Chanar, senior affiliate consultant at Euroconsult. Thank you, everyone, and see you online tomorrow.